Hey YouTube, this is Coldwater from Phantom Trading, and welcome to today's video on how to build case studies and collect data for your trading. So what I've done today is I put together, this is a tool that I put together a while ago, but it is a little data collection spreadsheet slash database that I have in Notion. And what I have here are just some mock models that I put together for the 15-minute. I don't necessarily use these. I mean, you guys are welcome to test it. And we're probably going to collect some data on it here too. But I just basically sketched up some random models just to show you guys how I would do it. Now, the whole point of this is, I want you guys to go find your own models, or if you join Phantom Trading, we have entry models that are within the actual resources that you can use and collect data on yourself. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to keep it super simple, and we're just going to collect some data on GBP USD on the 15-minute. So we're not going too deep into it. We're not going on the 1 minute or anything. Just simple stuff. The whole idea is to give you guys an idea of how to actually do the process of building case studies, which I think is a very important thing. So before we actually go into this in more depth and start collecting data, of course, what are some of the requirements before we start? Well, number one, you need a trading strategy and trading plan. Okay, you can't just do this without any understanding of your plan. Whether you're trading retail concepts or you're trading supply and demand the way that we teach at Phantom, make sure you understand your strategy, because if you go into this and you don't understand it, or you have like a very loose understanding of it, it's not really going to do any good for you, right? It might actually cause some harm in the case of helping. I mean, it's going to make you build essentially bad habits, right? We don't want to do that. So focus on understanding the strategy first, right? So in the case of the Phantom trading strategy, understand structure, supply and demand, liquidity, the higher time frame analysis, your top-down analysis from the higher time frames down to your entry time frame, things like order flow, stuff like that, right? If you don't understand that, go spend more time learning it. Okay, it's really that simple. Number two, what do we need? Well, we need some entry models. So that's kind of what I put together here. I've labeled them ABC. Again, these are not necessarily entry models that we use in Phantom. It's just, again, something that I put together. I just kind of threw them together. But again, if you want the entry models that we have in the course, join Phantom and you'll be able to get access to it through the resources. Okay, so that being said, those are really the two main things that you need. Okay, and essentially what we're going to do is we are going to test for these entry models. Okay, now does that mean that we're just going to go and search for any entry model on the 15-minute? No, of course we're going to look on the 4-hour, even the daily, and just try to, we need to make sense of the higher time frame, right? We're not just going to enter anything just because it shows up. We need to have some sort of higher time frame market direction that's supporting our trade idea. Okay, it's the same way that we would approach it in the live market. Now, a couple ways you can do it, right? Personally, I like doing it in hindsight. I think it's better for you guys if you do it in hindsight, where you just look for trades and reverse engineer them, or you can do them as bar replay. But again, I don't recommend that unless you've already collected data and you're able to determine, the efficacy of your trade strategy combined with the entry models that you've chosen to collect data on. Okay, really important. So that being said, let's dive into it. I'm just going to do a very basic analysis here. Again, the whole point here is not to actually go into the technical analysis part of things. It's really just to show you guys the process. So I'm going to show you how I use this sheet, and you guys will have access to this in Phantom Trading. I'm going to share it within the community. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start on the daily. I apologize that the chart is a little small here, but I do want to be able to show you guys both things at the same time. So we zoomed in a little bit here. It's square. It's all right. You guys can still see it, right? So we'll start with daily here. I mean, I can go as far as weekly even, right? I think if you guys trade, oops, I accidentally pressed F5. If you guys trade GU, then you know that essentially we are in this sort of supply chain, and price is pretty bearish on the weekly. Okay, so what I'll do here is, actually I'm just going to go, there's not really much to mark out here. I mean, I could mark out this range, right? But again, the point of this video is not to get too deep into the technicals of things, right? So what I'm going to do, bear with me for a second, it's a little weird with it being so zoomed in for me. What I'm going to do here is we're going to call this a daily zone and I'm literally just marking out this chain that we kind of formed. Okay, now in this case, again, I've bar replayed back to it so that we can kind of play forward and look for these models. But again, before we do all that, what am I doing? Well, I'm doing my higher time frame analysis, right? My top-down analysis. It's super important that we do this and we don't like skip over it, okay? Because if you do and you just pick out, you know, random setups, you're probably not going to have a very good strike rate. Okay, it's just a fact. So my daily right now, we are ranging. We're bullish though. I would say based on this break right here. So we'll call this a daily boss. Okay, so we broke to the upside, coming from what I would say is pretty rare. Actually, sorry, it should be this high, right? So I'll just quickly mark it out to show you guys structure. I mean, we teach structure on the YouTube channel anyways, so it's, you know, it's no like secret the way that we do it. So let's see, we got my daily high here. Right, we kind of came from this, we broke this low, we get a pullback. Okay, we were in the structural range, we then broke above. Okay, and then because we shifted from bearish to bullish, we leave this low here, we break up. None of this is triggering what I would consider a pullback. So then we just kind of have this larger overall leg. So we're bullish overall, but then we're ranging within it, and then we're chaining. We have a supply chain that's essentially formed. Okay, and this goes as far as this supply level all the way to the left here. Okay, so again, just trying to make sense of it. And yeah, other than that, I mean, kind of have this demand that's holding multiple times. And I just drag that over, and yeah, that's my daily. Okay, so daily bullish, but in a supply chain. So, and we're ranging, and we're at the top of the supply chain. So as you guys know, I like using premium discount in really only one area, and that's when we're in a range. Okay, so now we can go onto the 4 hour, and we can start actually assessing this and refining it a little bit better. Okay, so with this, I'm gonna just mark out this entire range of the 4 hour here. You can see that we kind of tapped into it. We're starting to sweep this high. It's all relevant like information that, you know, it's good to have. Okay, so I'll just use a little line to denote the liquidity here. And in terms of structure, let me just see here if there's anything else worth marking out. I mean, we can refine this a little bit too. Right, we've tapped into this 4 hour zone here at the bottom. And again, this is just basic, you know, 4 hour. And remember, 4 hour is really like the core time frame that we look at for trying to determine things like our intraday bias, and it's kind of our mid to high time frame that we want to pay attention to, right? But essentially, I would say that we are bullish just by looking at it. Okay, I can kind of just tell. So what I'm going to do is I'll quickly mark out the structure points as well, and the breaks and everything, so you guys understand it, just so we're on the same page. And then from there, I'll probably stop marking out structure, and then we'll just like flip back and forth to the 4 hour and 15 minute to show you guys how to actually collect data on it. So from here, we essentially have the 4 hour high. We have this low. We don't count this as a pullback. We do pull back here. We then close below here. Okay, so this is our current structure. And then within this, we then break below here. Highest point before the break would be right here. Okay, and then eventually we break this up, right? And then we pull back quite significantly, and then we break up, and then probably, I mean, we could call this a pullback, but I'm just gonna sort of consolidate that. Then we get another pullback here that actually sweeps something, right? This one doesn't sweep anything, which is why I didn't really consider it. And then this is a potential pullback. I don't know if we're gonna close above this yet, so this is just sort of floating. Okay, but overall, what's the point that I'm trying to make here? Okay, we're bullish, right? So 4 hour boss. Okay, this is our previous 4 hour boss, and prior to that we had this boss down. Okay, so boss down, we boss up, and then boss up again, and then now we're kind of pulling back, and we'll see if we continue to push higher. Okay, so now what I can do is, we know that we are in, or sweeping, sorry, we're sweeping this nearby 4 hour zone, which really didn't do much. Like I would say that 4 hour is not only bullish, but also overall in control here. But we are also tapping into sort of this larger 4 hour range, and we're in a larger daily zone. So we'll see what happens on the 15 minute. But I'm gonna go down to the 15 minute now, and now we can start looking for our entry models. on the intraday chart. Now I'm just going to look for it on essentially every time frame. So what I'm going to do here is, yeah, we do have it in bar replay mode, or at least I thought we did. Never mind, I guess we don't. Let's just pull back for a second. I thought I actually pulled it back to the start of March, which I'm just going to do again. Let's see, which would be here, and it's fine. I mean, we know what's going to happen. The whole point here is not to really test ourselves. It's more to like collect data and test our entry model. Okay, so that's fine. We've kind of marked it out. That's really not a big deal. Based on what we have here, though, I would say that we were bearish coming into here. Again, I know we know what happens, but basically the way I'm seeing it, I'll just quickly mark this up again, okay, is we would have been bearish, right, because we broke here, and then we have this sort of demand chain that's forming on the 4 hour, okay? So we have a nice demand chain. Yes, it didn't necessarily break the high, but it is sort of here. So we can kind of expect maybe this is going to get swept and potentially tap into something below it. I think that's what happens anyways. I already forgot, to be honest. But now what we can do is we can go down to the 15-minute and start scanning for entry models. And again, I'm just going to do this in hindsight, okay? So if we look back to the 4 hour, we're just going to flip back and forth for a second here. We're coming off of a 4 hour supply zone. We're bearish. We're maybe expecting that this low is weak, okay? If we want to, we can try to play continuation shorts here, okay? That's kind of what I'm going to look at. So we'll just change this to the 4 hour. We'll go back to the 15-minute here. And then even if I just look at this session for a second, right? So this would be my London session here, right? I'm in Toronto, so UTC -4. 3 a.m. is London open. 8 a.m. is like, you know, our New York open for the Forex market. And if I'm just looking for model A, B, or C, I'm going to look through this price action. I can even cut back and play through it if I want to. Again, you don't need to do that. The only reason I'm doing it is just so that it's like, you know, I don't have to scroll back and forth over and over, right? So I'll play the whole day forward, and then we can just start marking it up, right? Now, in terms of structure, like, I mean, I can mark that out too. Of course, the 15-minute is not the most reliable structure, but I'll just quickly do that. We'll just use lines for this, okay? And it may not be the most accurate thing, but let's see. Start with this high, this low, we pull back. Okay, we break here. This would have been our main structure point here, based on what I see right now. Okay, and then we break below, we pull back up. So I'm bearish overall on this. Coming into London, let's see. I think we already have one of these setups here. Now, it's not the cleanest thing, but basically we have this sort of pause in price action, which flipped off of this demand zone. We had liquidity here, okay? Exactly the way that I've kind of marked out, I think, model B here. Okay, so you guys see this pattern, right? Now, again, it's not perfect, but I would qualify it as, oh, actually, this one's even better. Because look, so we swept here, we broke down, we have that sort of flip zone, we push down, we sweep above into the flip zone, and price continues. Okay, so there's model C. This is actually model C. Okay, again, I just threw them together. They're very loosely based off of kind of what we trade in Phantom, but it's not exactly the same. Again, if you want the proper entry models that are a little better labeled and not just sort of scribbled, join Phantom Trading and you'll get access to it. Okay, so there's one. In terms of management, where do we maybe want to target? Maybe we target this low, and we'll see. We're gonna have to go through spread hours. Okay, so it looks like it would have maybe taken us break even, but regardless, maybe you would want it to close in and around here anyways. So, you know, we'll just put it here because here's the thing. Maybe you don't want to hold through spread hours, right? We can kind of experiment with the management as well, right? The whole idea is just to see, okay, what the entry model did. Okay, so now that we have our first entry model here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to input the date. Okay, so this is March 2nd at 4 a.m. So this is London session. So we'll go March 2nd, which is Thursday, right? Double check. And trade ID, I'll just leave as 1, right? Just to give it some order. Session, we'll do London. We'll take New York out. Oh, okay, sorry, I have a filter on. Let's take these filters off for a second. Oh, okay, this is from when I was doing this before. Let me just delete all of these too. Bear with me for 1 second, guys. It's not letting me shift click. Oh, you know what? We'll just do this. Okay, hold on. Do this the easy way. So I'll just delete all of these. Oh, not this one. Okay, Notion's a really fun tool. It's just you kind of have to learn it, right? Kind of understand that it's not the easiest tool to wrap your head around, but if you know how to use like Excel, it's not even very similar to Excel. It is a little different. It's just nice to have a database that you can play with, right? So okay, back to this. Let me delete these two too, or as well. And here we go. So March 2nd, London session. How much R would we have netted off of this? So okay, let's assume that okay, we're managing it. It's playing through. It starts to pull back, and we're like, okay, you know what? This is Thursday. Why don't we set our TP down here for 4.58? Right? We survived the pullback. It came down, and maybe we don't want to hold through spread hours because you know it gets a little dicey, right? And we don't know if price is going to turn back on us. We're tapping into a 4-hour demand zone that may hold, right? Okay, so we manage it that way, right? In theory, and we go 4.58 R. Okay. Now, yeah, it's a win, so I'm going to put a 1. If it was a loss, we'll do -1. This is just for tallying it later on. 0 for a break even, okay? And that way we can kind of count how many wins, how many losses, and figure out our profit factor and strike rate, okay? So day of the week is automatically going to be calculated based on this little formula that I have in here. Time, the way that I like doing it is I just put the exact time we entered. So if it's 4 in the morning, we'll just do 400. If it were, say, 12:45, PM, so just 45 minutes after noon, I would do 12:45 like that, and just to get an idea of that data too. So we'll do 400, and of course our entry model was C, right, as we saw here. So it's really clean. Okay, moving on. And did that make sense? Yeah, I think so, right? Now what we can do is I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to use my little entry template here where I have subheadings for 4-hour and 15-minute. Again, just to keep it simple, you could add daily into this. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It just, you know, want to try to keep it simple. So what I'm going to do here is just take a picture of the 4-hour, paste it in, and the 15-minute. So again, the reason I don't put the daily, again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I just don't want to bog myself down sometimes, right? Really, 4 hours is the most important thing. It's not the end of the world if I don't have the daily in here too, right? We kind of know roughly, what daily looks like. It's kind of like this, but how relevant is that to the intraday? It can be, right? Don't get me wrong, but if I have to now paste in 3 images, enter all this information, it's going to slow me down, right? In my ability to actually like enter each entry into this. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're building out, you know, your Notion template, if you're going to do that, or if you use Excel or whatever it is that you're using to collect data, because you know, you don't want to make it like overly complicated for yourself, right? It's just going to make it too much of a chore to actually, you know, do it, right? So moving on, let's go back to the 4-hour, and now we see we're reacting off of this demand level. Okay, now could this be a level that we're reacting off of before it fails, essentially, you know, maybe making a flip, or is it just reacting before it fails so that it can come tap into this lower area here, or demand level that we have below, using this as liquidity? Maybe, right? But that's why we take pictures of both, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another entry into here. And what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can find another entry model here. So what I've done here, and I kind of purposely did this, is I only put short models just because I was trying to be quick about it. And I want you guys to, you know, figure it out for yourselves too, right? It's not just, you know, I'm not going to hand it to you guys on a silver platter. Basically, I'm just going to flip these in my head, right? So if I see A, B, or C models set up after tapping into this demand zone, then we find a valid entry model that we should probably be taking, and we're good to go. So I can kind of see here, so coming off of this, we had Asia, London, we're kind of pushing up, and essentially what I'm going to scan for here is probably model A, because B is more so for reversals, at least the way that I've drawn it out here. Same with C, and C is more of like a decisional play. The thing is, A could be too, but A is more of a continuation. So let's see if I can find any levels that sweep liquidity. I actually do see one here, okay? Now, ideally, I want to look to the left and see that it's taking something out. So we can see that it did here, right? Swept, we broke up. And then if I actually mark out this one, this is a pretty tight entry, right? We have a pretty decent entry model here. Now, the thing is, right, I'm kind of bar replaying through this. I don't know how far this is going to run, okay? Now, what I can do is put like an area here or whatever. Say that I want to target whatever Asia high from the day before, okay? Let's just say in theory. And we're going to see how this is going to play out. I really don't remember, right? So we'd probably be break even already, right, at this point. And it looks like we have news too. Oh, it's just ISM, so that's fine. It looks like we kind of change here, and that's not really part of my model, unless we're looking at model B, but that doesn't make sense either. So I would say this is model A, and I'm gonna say that I want to target this high. Now, whether it hits that or not, I'm gonna leave this on, and we're gonna record it the way that, you know, it kind of plays out, okay? So in this case, this would have been a break even. It's still a valid entry model, but the point I'm trying to make is, if we see something fail, even though it's valid, or go break even, or take a loss, record it. Because the whole point of this is to try and see, you know, how well each model performs, okay? That's part of the reason we're putting it in Notion, so I can actually use a filter later and check, okay, how did model A perform? How did model B perform? How did model C perform in isolation, okay? And then we can also filter our sessions too, right? So this one was London, okay? But then, well, let's just see here. So this is the 3rd, the Friday. So this one would also be London. Take out our little New York thing here, our session. And then how much R did we make? Well, we went break even on it, right? Because presumably you'd be break even when it breaks the next high, okay? And it obviously comes back. So I'm gonna go 0 to show that we made nothing on it. And a break even would be 0 as well, okay? Again, Friday, and then time of day. Let's see. I think this is at 5. Okay, so we'll do 500, right? And our entry model would be A. Okay, so totally valid setup, and thankfully our break-even rules saved us on it. But essentially, that setup did not necessarily play out the way we wanted. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't take it. Again, this is the nature of the market, right? It's very probabilistic. Now we can start looking maybe for a B setup, right? Because now we're starting to see what price pushed up. Hold on, we gotta check the 4-hour though to see if we can justify it. Wait, we're tapping into some sort of like 4-hour flip zone inside bar or whatever. So I can mark that out too. Again, this is for you guys to figure out on your own, or join Phantom Trading to really like get a better understanding of how we approach supply and demand on time frames like the 4-hour and daily and stuff, right? Because again, I'm not going to go into so much depth. It would take just way too long for me to try and explain it. That's the reason we have a course, right? It takes hours to explain. There's so much to cover, okay? And honestly, like, I think it's kind of like intimidating and maybe complicated at the start for some people, but you know what? The longer you do it, the easier it gets. It's just the honest truth of it, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking now for a Model B setup on this. So essentially, what I'm looking to play is maybe this extreme. I don't think it's going to come back to it, but what's nice is price sort of shot down, very similar to actually what we have here. We built some liquidity. So if price comes and retests this, then great. So right now, the way, again, I'm doing it is, I'm not really doing it in hindsight here, but okay, so there we go. We take a valid loss on that one, right? Now the question is, did we miss a long here at all? No, I don't think so, because how would you really call that, right? It just sort of reacts out of nowhere. So I'm gonna record this one now, same thing. Now I know I glossed over, you know, taking pictures here, but again, just for the sake of the video, I want to show you guys how I would do it, right? So we'll do March 3rd. What time is this? 12. We would have entered it around 12:45, I would say, is when we would get tagged if we left the limit, right? And now I'll do -1, and we'll do -1 here, okay? And this would have been New York session, that's correct. And 12:45, and this would be Model B, okay? So maybe what's gonna happen is we're gonna, again, because these are not the exact entry models, right? It's a very simplified version of what we're doing, right? Maybe what we're gonna notice after we collect, say, 40, 50, 100 trades on the 15-minute or whatever time frame you want to enter off of, we're gonna start to notice a pattern emerge. Okay, B does not work that well. Maybe it's like a 20% strike rate. Well, if it's that low, what's the point in trading it? It's not worth it, right? maybe we notice that A and C, they work really well, because technically C is, as much as this is a reversal, this is really a continuation play, right? We're waiting for order flow to shift and stuff. A is a pure continuation model, right? Well, if we notice that A and C have, say, like, you know, a 40 to 50% strike rate, even combined, right? We can combine the data using filters, right? I just add a filter here and I say, okay, entry model, I just want A and C. And we tally up, you know, our wins, our losses, our net R, and we figure out our profit factor using this formula. Where is it? Right here, right? And we notice our profit factor is pretty healthy, right? It's above 1. Ideally, it's 2. In the best case, it's 3 or higher. Then we scrap B. There's no point in trading B, right? It doesn't work well. Why are we going to keep on risking money on it and hitting losing streaks, taking B setups when they clearly don't work, right? And now I'm not saying that's true for B. It's, again, it may or may not be, right? But I think you guys understand the point that I'm trying to get across here, right? You collect data, figure out how or what the efficacy is of each entry model combined with your trading strategy and your understanding of your trading strategy. And from there, I mean, you can really like fine tune your trading plan into something that is a lot better than just, you know, kind of guessing or, you know, in some cases, even just taking entry models that maybe we even give you, right? And maybe they don't work for you, right? Because you're not able to recognize it in the live market or even in hindsight, right? So part of this is going to help you build confidence. Part of it is going to help you build data that you can then refer to later on. And at the end of the day, you know, the more data that you have and the better you understand your plan combined with your entry models, of course, the better you're going to be at executing it in the live market. Okay, it's going to give you confidence to actually hit trades and not hesitate on them, and also to not FOMO into trade setups that really just don't fit your plan. You know what I mean? It's a thing that we see people do in Phantom all the time. They're either fearful to enter because they're not confident in their plan, or they just enter anything because, you know, they don't really have a clear plan in place. Okay, so what I'm going to quickly do now is just quickly show you guys one of my other data sets, just to show you how it would look once we've collected a bunch. But I've shown you a win, a break even, and a loss. I think that's a good way to just sort of display the process of it. And again, you would just go in and actually don't know where the other one went here. Looks like it disappeared for whatever reason. Oh, it's because I don't have B on. But basically you would go in, right, and use your entry template, and again, just take pictures of the 15-minute, the 4-hour, maybe the daily if you want to be very like thorough about it. So you just have reference to it, right? You can always go back and see, oh, okay, this is how I should be trading this, right? If you're ever struggling in the live market, it's like, go refer to the data that you collected, okay? Because it's really good. It's a really good guide, right? But I'm just gonna quickly pause this and pull up my other database so you guys can see what this should look like in an ideal scenario once you've collected a bunch of trades, okay? All right, so this is a database that I basically collected about 70 trades or 69 trades on. Nice. And again, I just wanted to show you guys this. I don't actually have models on this one because when I collected it, I didn't. I mean, if you guys know how I trade, I don't necessarily use models. I more so use confluences. Though what I am probably going to do is try to refine it a little bit and add that in, just so that there's a little more structure to the way that I trade. But I mean, I've kind of been fine without it. I suggest that you guys do use models. It'll give you more structure for sure. That's how I traded the 1 minute in the past with success. So, but essentially you can see, you know, kind of the distribution of wins and losses and stuff here. And basically I've tallied everything up. We had 69 total trades, 32 wins, 37 losses, 46% strike rate because, you know, 32 divided by, 69. No, it is, sorry, it's 32 divided by 69, right? Our wins divided by our total trades gives us our strike rate. And then our average R was about 2.87, right? Accounting for wins and losses. Our average winning trade was 4.22 R. Average losing trade, of course, is -1 R. Our net R, I don't know why it's averaged out here. I think because we were recording it here. I think this is a little bit off. I may have changed a couple of things or added some stuff since. But we can see here that our profit factor is essentially here. We have our our formula, right? So I don't know off the top of my head. You guys can search for the profit factor formula. It'll tell you. I think it's something like strike rate times average winning trade divided by loss rate times average losing trade. I think that's what it is. And our profit factor is 3.59, which is honestly really amazing. It's pretty similar to what my live profit factor is. And I just had the 4 hour here. But anyways, this is just kind of how it would look like. You can see exactly how I filled it out. Right? We have our win loss thing here. And this is how I tally my strike rate, by the way, right? So I just count all of the ones as wins, all the zeros as break evens, which is kind of irrelevant. I don't necessarily count that in my strike rate. And then of course our minus ones here as losses. And then we have our R, right? And of course we can, you know, figure out things like our sum and our average and stuff if we want to figure out whatever that data is. And again, I can filter by session too, right? I think I had London in here too. That might have been the reason why. Yeah, I think that's the reason why it was it's kind of messed up, because I was filtering stuff out because I don't trade London, right? So, but anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little bit of a long video, 30 minutes, but you know what? I think there's a lot of value for you guys to gain out of it. Again, don't take those entry models that I show you guys and just try to trade it. Like I'm really warning you guys, go collect data on it if anything. And again, they're very like basic entry models that I've kind of shown you guys on the 15 minutes. It's not enough. You really need to understand the strategy, and ideally you know, join Phantom Trading. We'll teach you guys how to trade consistently, and you'll get access to like the proper entry models that you're looking for. We have them for, you know, the 1 minute especially, and they go into a lot more depth than just, you know, some lines on the chart, right? A, B, C. It's not that simple, okay? Again, it's just an example to show you guys. So that's the big disclaimer here, right? I don't want you guys to go and like start trading your funded accounts or, you know, whatever it is, using those models and then blowing it because you thought, oh, it's going to work. I literally drew those 15 minutes before I started making this video. So just a little disclaimer for you guys, okay? Aside from that though, I hope you guys learn something and, you know, are able to take this process and use it to help improve your trading. That's really like, you know, the goal at the end of the day. So that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in Phantom if you join. Later, guys.